put this wall between us, group. For first corn and now this. No, no.
Oh God, it only took us like a solid fucking.
Well, we started this at 3. Yes, 38 minutes.
It took us 38 minutes to fucking set this up.
Okay. You know what would be good, like really good content one day, is like a
Tau titties.
I mean, Tau titties. Now we got enough of that into the Discord. Like, there's these like almost all the fucking NSFW is fucking Tau titties. Like, to a surprising degree. Like, Tao's the horniest player base. But no, I was going to say, like, a paint tip. Scare the fuck out of me. Scare the fuck out of me, goddammit.
I told you we're going to have fun with these.
Oh, God. Oh, I feel like I'm just going to keep on speaking and you're, like, waiting right behind me. I can't even look at you. So always you're, like, waiting behind me with the balloon. Just you're kind of, like, ready to pop it. But I was gonna say, do like a paint taste test, and then I could be like, we could do it. We could do it right now with speed paints.
I'm gonna warn you right now, they all taste terrible.
Oh, I've tasted worse. Like, hey, the moment as after you tasted like microsol, like yeah, which is like all chemicals, by the way, which is probably why I'm probably retarded. But you know. Listen, I'm not saying that's for sure the case. I'm just saying if we drew like a graph between my time on Warhammer and like tasting paints and chemicals versus retardation.
We've all done it.
We've all done it.
You are now listening to Heresy FM. This ain't your commissar station.
Oh,
so welcome to the podcast, everyone.
Welcome back, season 2.
Season 2, we are here. Sans Corn. Corn's out looking for milk.
Yeah, he went out. He said something about fucking heretics and, well, not heretics. He said something about fucking imperialist dogs and
blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne.
Yeah,
corn for the cornflakes.
Yeah, milk for the lactose intolerant. Yes. Yeah. So, can we take a second to like just tell them about this setup right now?
Yeah,
because now I'm in the corner. I'm in a corner of shame. I can't speak too loud.
We're in a fucking imperial bunker right now.
Yeah, so if there's like an occasional echo, we're trying our best not to. But I'm literally, we have like a wall between us, and I'm staring at I can't even look at him right now to avoid any echoes. So he's just like staring at my side profile right fucking now.
We're gonna try and fix this up a little bit better, but
yeah, it's still a work in progress. But I figured you guys would enjoy the bunker episode, right? I think that was the idea.
I think it fits.
Yeah, it fits pretty well.
I think it fits for what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, any stuff. It's not too bad. It's not too bad.
Because it's finally here. We're finally talking about something other than fucking Space Marines.
Also, I got kind of tired sick of it. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and that's
And that's coming from Space Marine fanboys.
Yes. 20 more Primaris lieutenants right now. 20 more lieutenants. Yes. So I think today we're going over the Imperial Guard, right? This is season 2.
Yeah, this is going to be the start of the Imperial Guard. I figured it'd probably be a good idea for us to go ahead and do like an overview, kind of like how we did for everything else. Just a basic overview, because we're not talking about Space Marines anymore, so we need to get people's minds off of Space Marines.
Yeah, get the fuck out of your mind. We're not talking about those losers.
Yeah,
we're talking about the real heroes.
Yeah, the regular old humans. So today we're going to be talking about the Astra Militarum, or as I like to say, don't try and church it up, son. You're in the Imperial Guard now.
Yeah. So, you got conscripted.
Those are actually different.
What, like the conscripts versus the... Yeah, no, there is. It was just a joke.
I didn't know they were different. I thought, like, everybody was just conscripted into the Guard.
Oh, no. The Guard, because this is, like, the thing most people get wrong about the Guard, is people are like, oh, Guard, just like, they hand you a las gun and say, get going, son. That's usually not the case. Guard's usually, like, the top, like, percentile, like, actual troops from a planet.
Yeah.
Like, they're not shoddy.
No, these are like, it's like if you went through Marine boot camp and you came out as a fucking Marine. Like,
And you were like the top 20% of your class.
Well, yeah, and I mean, and they try to bring that up, like, especially with Cadia. Like, I've noticed, because the Cadian thing is like, oh, from Cadia's, as soon as you're able to hold a las gun, they hand you a las gun and say, here you go, son, you're in the Guard now. And that's not really the case. Like, from that small age, they're trained to use that las gun.
Well, the biggest thing with Cadia, right, is we're going to do like a guard overview before specifics. I mean, we're going to do a little bit of Cadia. We won't go too far into it. Cadia is like the standard, right? And now, granted, that may be changing due to the destruction of Cadia and different stuff we'll get into probably in the Cadia episode. But that's why Cadia fielded, like, bar none, the most amount of regiments, was because they had the most amount of people in that 20%, so to say.
Right.
Yeah, just because, like, hey, you're gonna be pretty fucking good if, like, your field stripping a last gun by age 8, you know?
Right.
Yeah. So there's a lot more like that, you know? And that's kind of a testament to why Cadia was the staple.
Yeah, and so when we talk about the Guard is actually the prime military force. Space Marines, you know, as much as people talk about them, they're not as available as they really make them out to be. Like, they're there, but they're...
Ultramarines. Who said that?
All I'm saying is when there's 500 worlds of Ultramar, you're gonna have more.
I mean, yeah, fair. But the funniest thing is, like, if they really wanted to, I mean, it would take... No, we're not talking about Space... Nope, I get the fuck off Space Marines. We're not going to talk. No rabbit hole. Okay, Cadia. So, the biggest thing, and I'm sure, like, you got an entire segment on the history, right?
Yeah, I have I was just kind of going into the basics, you know, talking about how...
For anybody who doesn't know, let's explain real quick, like, what the Guard is, right? And the full name, Astra Militarum, right? But affectionately known as the Imperial Guard, or just the Guard.
Yeah, so Astra Militarum is actually the High Gothic term, which will actually kind of be differentiating between a lot, I've noticed, in these coming episodes, because a lot of High Gothic terms that they use are not so much used for, like, the actual Guard. They tend to use Low Gothic terms.
Yeah, and it seems like most people, especially if you're not highborn, are going to be using the Low Gothic, you know.
Right.
That's like 95% of the Imperium. It's almost like, you know, there's English and there's like Latin.
Mm-hmm.
So if like you're in a hospital and stuff like that, you're probably going to know a lot more Latin compared to like most people out there, right?
Right.
That's kind of how it goes also with High Gothic and Low Gothic. Everybody's universally going to know, oh, it's the Guard. But if you want to be official, the Astra Militarum, you know. So it's very much a difference in nicknames and kind of how it goes, which is actually really interesting delving into the linguistics of 40K, but different story, different time. Right. Yeah, but 99, if there's ever a threat in the Imperium, the Guard is usually what takes care of it. So sort of like what you were saying earlier, Space Marines are fucking rare. Right. It's hypothesized that there's like what, there's like 1,000 chapters or some shit of 1,000 Marines.
Yeah, so you're talking like what, 100,000 Space Marines at a
No. It's more than that. But long story short, like, again, there's a reason why, like, in the Space Marine 2 trailer, everybody was glorifying the trailer to be like, oh, the Guardsman is like seeing a Space Marine, not only one Space Marine, but like fucking 3, and gets on a knee and immediately starts praying in the middle of a war zone. There's a reason why they're called the Angels of Death, specifically Angels, because they're rare as fuck and they kick ass and take names. But again, as a Guardsman, you're probably not going to see them in any capacity. You can go your entire life and much less see a Space Marine from a distance, much less fight alongside one or, Lord forbid, fight against one.
Yeah, I'm sure that's the last thing you want to be face to face with is a normal human seeing a 9-foot tall fucking just angry genetic super soldier fucking running at you.
Yeah, fuck that, bro. Yeah, you can go around, you're like, oh, go over here and fight this guy. You look at the guy, he's a fucking 9-foot tall superhuman, like fucking 7-8 foot tall, benching a tank, casually gets up, looks at you. I mean, just fuck, dude. I mean, there's a reason. Anyways, again, off topic. We're too indoctrinated by season 1. So for those who don't really know, the Guard, like we said, obviously you got the point by now, main fighting force of the Imperium.
Yeah, we're now talking about billions of men and women comprised into thousands of regiments, and they're all supported by a vast array of light and heavy armor, flight, anti-aircraft guns, artillery, all kinds of goodies that they get to use.
Yeah, this is 40K's regular relatively regular fucking person. They don't got the fucking power armor usually. They don't got this. Is you are a human. This is your indomitable human spirit. You pick up a last gun. You face the horrors of the universe. You go from there. And you know what the best fucking thing is? It works. And that's one thing I do want to get across is that, hey, here's a system, and especially on the fucking tabletop or anywhere else, like the guard's cheap as fuck. You got people dying all the time. But that being said, it's a system that fucking works. So let's go into the history about that a little bit. So how did the guard kind of get started?
So, in the original days,
The OG days.
we'll go back.
All the OGs.
Back into the beginning of. Oh, we're gonna go back to the beginning with Big E.
Russ in the background throwing up gang signs.
So in the beginning, Big E knew that just the legions of Space Marines weren't going to be enough. They weren't going to cut it. Well, he knew that the Thunder Warriors weren't going to cut it. We'll start. There was a little bit on like unification era. He had a League of Super Soldier called the Genos, I think it was called. And those were what he used alongside the Thunder Warriors for like the initial unification. But I'm pretty sure along with the Thunder Warriors, he probably killed those off.
I want to say, not necessarily kill those off. I do not know of any exact ending for them, so to say. But it is important to note is that whenever the Imperium specifically is such a militarized society, they have no objections to having their basic human soldier just like jam themselves with steroids, especially if it's going to be like a main frontline combatant type stuff. Now, it's not the regular stuff, but every once in a while you'll get like a series of units, or like we say in the Genos, especially whenever they're pumping drugs into fucking everybody, where it's a case of like, they don't really care if these guys, live past their fucking 40th birthday, because by God, as long as they can take enough lives before they die, positive trade.
Right. And I was coming in real nasty there for a second.
Ooh. Speaking nasty.
Speaking nasty.
Speaking nasty words.
So after that, where was I? Oh, so we'll start with what everybody knows is the Imperialis Auxilia, also known as the Imperial Army for you low Gothic speakers. These were tithes from compliant worlds that were calculated by the Corps Logisticae, later known as the Departamento Munitorum, or the Department of Munitions, I'm assuming, is the low Gothic, probably.
I'm just a guardsman. I don't fucking know.
But so now, instead of what we were originally talking about with the Guard, we're talking about billions of people under a single uniform, with ranks upon ranks of armored tanks and artillery, supported by fleets of capital class starships. The Navy was this was back when the Navy was integrated.
Yeah, that's kind of an important note, is that back during like the Great Crusade era, everything was a lot more unified in the sense of how it went, right? In 40K, everything's very divided. You don't have legions, you have chapters. You don't just have all the regular military combined into one. You have the Navy, you have the Army. I mean, it's a lot more divided. So back during that original era, it definitely was a lot more regimented, so to say. Whereas the case of like, you could probably trace your orders all the way back up to like the Supreme Commander of like easily one of the Primarchs over the overall, like a Lord Marshal type figure, So there was definitely a difference in how they were structured back then, where it was very much, you have the Supreme Leader, you kind of follow his fucking lead.
Yeah, so I'm sure everybody's wondering, well, what happened? Why do we have it one way during the Great Crusade and all that? And
Who got rid of the fun times?
Well, guess what? We go back to the Horus Heresy.
God damn it.
So back in the Horus Heresy, obviously, with commanders being in charge of space fleets on top of ground forces, on top of artillery, on top of tanks, on top of, entire fucking war fleets, it made it super easy for Horus to gain access to those, because you had fleets that were fighting with Space Marines, and they were like, well, he fucking turned traitor. Why shouldn't we? We've been fighting with him. You know, I haven't.
So a good way, if you don't mind me tossing it real quick,
go ahead.
a good way to think about this is imagine back then, right? In the original days, you had basically one commander, right? And that commander had access to all the infantry he needed, all the artillery he needed, all the tanks he needed, all the air force he needed, all the naval ships that he needed. He had supreme command. So if that commander went traitor, he had a full functioning army, right? So this is one of the big differences, like Gru was saying, to where it's, hey, if this guy turns traitor, that's an entire fucking army that could take over solar systems that is now on your ass. Therefore, after this, it was divided up to where suddenly it wasn't just one guy over all this. It was suddenly, hey, fucking Jim, who leads the artillery regiment, wants to work with Bob from the infantry regiment to go and coordinate an assault. And all these different places were kind of occasionally did have a big head honcho type situation, but it was a lot more divided and fractured. So think more like universal combined arms originally, and then later it's a lot of different departments trying to work together, which is a weakness. It does like make him less strong on the offense, but also it significantly reduces the possibility of corruption and turning traitor.
Yeah. So we talked about, you know, after the Horus Heresy, the Space Marines are split into chapters. Also, you know, the Guard didn't, the Astra Militarum didn't avoid that. The Imperial Navy and the Imperial Guard are now formed with no ground commander ever to command a Imperial vessel again. The Astra Militarum was now reorganized into planetary regiments and then divided to even smaller regiments. So that, and the big thing about that was, once again, it went back to if you had an armor regiment, well, now they don't have air support because now the regiments are split. So now he's not in command of he's not in command of like an Imperial Navy vessel. The Imperial Navy vessel is going to be like, no, fuck you.
Exactly, yeah. So that tank commander falls to chaos or something happens or tries to go rogue. Well, I mean, yeah, you got a shit ton of tanks. It's an impressive force, don't get me wrong. But also, like, what are you going to do whenever, like, you got a minefield? Do you have the infantry to actually go through and, like, minesweep? If you need to get off world, do you have the Navy ships? No, you don't. So, again, it isolates them, and that's a positive and a negative. But after the heresy, they said they're not playing around with any overall force turning traitor again.
Yeah, you're essentially just stuck on a planet by yourself with no support.
Yeah, it's not gonna end well, you know. So again, it's all about compartmentalization, just to reduce the effects of contagion, so to say, of chaos.
So another big thing that happens is they introduce what's called the Officio Prefectus. They introduce commissars, which are, I was reading and I was kind of confused. I mean, I'm assuming everybody has their fucking commissariat origin story or whatever, but I was reading that usually they're orphans of parents who were killed serving the Imperial Army in some way, like officers, shit like that.
Yeah.
And they were who were educated in the Scala Progenium. So I guess that's like,
Yeah, so that's definitely one of the ways that the people, the kids in the Scala Progenium can grow up to be, or even further on adults who can go there to get their education and training, is that's what they're assigned for. And that's important because, reminder, if you are raising a regiment and you're a planet, okay, so like Cadia, if you're a Cadian regiment, you already have those connections to potentially other Cadian regiments. You have connections to, of course, your own regiment itself. So if you went ahead and you went through basic training and you fought in countless wars with these guys and everything else, it's going to be a lot harder for you to not let stuff slide. You know,
right.
If you're just like, oh, I'm Captain, my name's Captain Jim, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly my soldiers are going around and doing stuff they shouldn't do. Now, if those soldiers went around and were saving my life and I, went through hell with them, I may let them slide if they be like, yeah, maybe you should pick up the book with the little 8-pointed star on it. You know, that what could go wrong? What could go wrong with that? Because again, most people don't really know about chaos. I mean, they could generally know about juju and demons and stuff like that, but they don't know the specifics of what's going on. Meanwhile, a commissar, who's kind of like an outside force, it's a lot easier for them to be a case of like, hey, I'm the cop over your shoulder, right? Like, hey, you guys can hang out here and you guys are doing your job, but you got HR on your ass. And if you fuck up, yeah.
I'm not afraid to put a bullet in your fucking head.
Exactly. And here's one of the big things. We're on the topic of commissars. We do have to address. Now, commissars do, in 40K, everything can be unique, right? Not every single commissar is wielding the bolt pistol and just haphazardly shooting people and going from there like, oh, onwards, let me just shoot this guy for motivation. And the biggest thing we can kind of get from this is from the Caiaphas Cain books, because they actually go into a decent bit of detail about this. With the entire fact that, hey, you do got commissars who do that. But most commissars are probably going to be smart enough to know that if they just haphazardly shoot their soldiers without reason, they're going to end up dead. It's like the Vietnam fragging where they toss a frag grenade in the officer's tent. Yeah, like that's what's going to fucking happen to them. Because again, I mean, it's a very real understanding of like, hey, I am with this company, but also I am not of this company. And if I'm a cruel person, I'm going to end up dead. So a lot of times the commissars would 100% distill order, don't get me wrong, and they would do that effectively. And a lot of them have been zealous to the point where it's known among the commissars of like, yeah, you definitely get some coming out of the Progenium that are more like shoot your own soldiers, ask questions later.
Yeah, I do not give a fuck to put a bullet in your head for the Emperor.
Exactly, yeah. It's like, oh, you hesitated for half a second, let me kill you, as motivation for everybody else. But it's not the most universal thing as people make it out to be and as memes make it out to be,
Right, and interesting enough, we've talked about it a little bit, but the Scala Progenium also produces Tempestus Scions, some Inquisitors, Officio Assassins, and a lot of other Terran high society. A lot of your, high-ranking officer, a lot of your high-ranking officers will come from like the Scala Progenium. Sisters of Battle get picked from the Scala Progenium. Members of the ecclesiarchy get picked if they show certain like zealousy and all that.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about the Progenium, and it'll definitely come up again because it's very close with the Guard. But in the Progenium, it's not just like, oh, you're only taking the Progenium for like these 4 things. If you're in the Progenium, you're basically just essentially usually guaranteed to have like a much higher station, no matter what that is. There we go. But that could be, again, scions, commissars, sororitas. That could be, like you said, ecclesiarchy. It could be fucking anything. Maybe an inquisitor comes by and snags your ass up. It doesn't fucking matter. So it's important to know that the Progenium's much more of a catch-all in terms of what you do and in terms of education, right? So that's one of the important things about that. And again, it goes back down to what's in the Guard, right?
Right.
You got the basic regiments. That's everybody that we've already kind of talked about. They're divided into regiments. You have infantry regiments, tank regiments. Technically, you can have small combinations and like siege regiments. Anybody can make any type of regiment, but a regiment can never be a entirely complete task force of the scale to where it's going to fuck everything up. So you're never going to have like a giant one regiment that's big enough to do a crusade by itself or any shit like that. It's always going to have usually some form of specialty. So like Tanith First and Only, obviously a bit more recon. Krieg, obviously a lot more siege regiments. Acadian is probably where you get a lot more of the usually more infantry, but also more like combined arms. So like Acadian regiment, and this is just a very loose rule of thumb. Don't take this as like gospel or anything. Acadian regiment is going to be a bit more like, oh, we've already communicated to have a Valkyrie in reserve. We have some Leman Russes. We have some infantry, stuff like that. Combined arms is kind of the word of Cadia. And since Cadia is like the most popular regiment style in the Imperium, most of the Imperium is combined arms to a degree,
Yeah, so along with that, because I kind of figured that I wasn't going to put too much on, I guess, commissars, because, I mean...
Yeah, we can leave them there for now. Honestly, it may not be bad to go around and do small episodes covering, like, commissars, scions, like, just specifically. But yeah, just be aware, commissars are political officers there to instill, like, basically the rules, essentially. And on top of that, scions are basically the spec ops. And they're unlike the other spec ops or the other spec ops.
So, of course, normal people can't be trusted to handle their own repairs and fucking fix their own weapons and shit like that. They have to get it from somewhere. And of course, the Mechanicum has to get their fucking hands in, everything. So the Mechanicum also sends in what they call Ingeseers. They also send in higher ranks and priests, Magi, to oversee supply lines and logistics, and may or may not use their own influence to pursue the interests of Mars.
Yeah, so kind of like how we're talking about, like, the regiments are divided to prevent corruption, stuff like that. Obviously not intentional, not meant to necessarily prevent corruption, but the Mechanicus is certainly a different faction involved with the Militarum. Because again, I mean, you can't have a fleet of vehicles and not be able to do more than basic repairs. Now, granted, usually, if, it's like a tank regiment, you got a shit ton of Lehman Rustis and Rogaldorns, if you're lucky, maybe a Baneblade, but that'd be rare. Then in that case, you could probably do some like the maintenance, the basic stuff, keep it up, how to, use the fucking dipstick. But if it comes down to like serious injury, stuff like that, modification, that's all the engines here. They're the actual, like not the armor, but what's like an armor for a tank crew? Or what would be like the closest equivalent?
I don't know. The closest thing I can think of for an Ingeseer is like a fucking tank is basically a fucking mechanic.
I mean, yeah, essentially, yeah, dedicated mechanic. I mean, that's yeah.
It's the tank priest.
It's the tech priest that is also the tank priest. Yeah.
But and I mean, a lot of the different, I guess you'd say, High Lords of Terra have their hands in the Imperial Guard in some way, shape, or form. You have the Mechanicum that's a part of it. You have the Ecclesiarchy that's a part of that sends priests and stuff to be a part of attaches.
Especially if there's a crusade going on, they can have ecclesiarchal kind of influence with it.
Yeah, any kind of religious influence. The Scholastica Psychona, psychers are often known to aid the Imperial Guard in support against demons and psychic phenomenon. And something that doesn't get talked about a whole lot to go along with that are abhumans. This is the first place where you see.
We get to talk about Ogrins now.
Yay!
You're making them at night. Okay, so here's the deal. Like we said before, there's a lot of stuff, and we're kind of like loosely going over all this stuff and just casually going topic to topic with the Militarum. Ogrins will always have a special place in my heart, and I think for most people, they always do. Because the Guard, I mean, if you got an Ogrin, okay, or like an approved abhuman of this type, like whether it's a Rattling, an Ogrin, stuff like that, you don't always have a place to put them, so to say. And if you got a giant, like, 7-foot tall dude that weighs 400 pounds of pure fucking muscle, and also last night's dinner that he ate 20 servings of, what the fuck are you gonna do with them? Give them a beat stick and put them in the Guard.
That's exactly what you do.
I mean, it's unironically like, special education, go. But the special education is just giving the tart a stick and just saying, have fun. And it's one of them, like, the funniest, but also, like, it's pretty fun. It's not even, like, really depressing, because, like, I've never heard of an Ogrin being like, fuck this,
For the Emperor, sir.
Yeah, the Ogrins are pretty fucking happy. At least from all the portrayals that I've seen and know of. So, yeah, Ogrins are definitely in there. Which, again, it goes back to combined arms, right? And I will say there's so much stuff in the Imperium, whether it's just the ecclesiarchal influence, the psychers, the different abhumans, the different types of weaponry, siege regiments, tank regiments, infantry regiments. The biggest thing is that the Guard is a giant, beautiful, like, charcuterie board. And it's just whatever you want to put on that fucking board is what you're going to get. And that's why it's so perfect, because, like, hey, it's compartmentalized. But whenever you start putting the building blocks together, you can make something that's going to, like, fucking rock everything out of this world. And that's needed just because think of how, like, crazy, think of, like, all the crazy different stuff that happens in the Imperium, right?
Right.
You get one world that's a giant fucking desert planet that no person can really survive on because like the insane heat kills them with heat stroke in like an hour.
So they survive underground and but still have fucking legions of tanks, and
Yeah, so then they just say, okay, well, let's use tank warfare. So you can just stack up a more like tank regiments, right? If
Or
you
we'll-
got, yeah, if
or
you,
we'll use like hit and run tactics from like desert bunkers.
yeah, like and obviously we're talking about the Talaran Desert Raiders. And if you go where it's too cold and you can't really use any flying aircraft, or any like vehicles because they freeze up too much, well, you got motherfuckers that are like cold weather experts, and also you can use more appropriate stuff with that. And if you have a siege, you got artillery regiments. So again, that's the kind of the beauty of the guard, and that should be like the main appeal. Why they deal with like 99% of all fucking shit in the Imperium is because they can deal with it. The majority of the time you hear of guard fucking up is either because it's some insane end of the sector type threat, like a fucking the Death Guard are invading, right? Or it's a major Eldar craft world popped up. It's always some bullshit like that. We're like, yeah, they can't fucking survive that because almost nothing can.
There was something
Yeah.
cool that I had up here. It was for the actual overview. It was before the history and everything. But the primary tactic of the guard is to overwhelm the enemy with endless numbers, all while hitting with devastating artillery and powerful battle tanks, giving them the moniker "Hammer of the Emperor," due to the sheer amount of force that they bring to bear on the enemy. Not like not precise like the Adeptus Astartes, who are often referred to as the scalpel of the Emperor.
I've heard everything you just said before, but the scalpel of the Emperor never like fails to crack me the fuck up. It's like, behold, our mightiest, the angels of death, the scalpels of the Emperor.
Yeah, you would have thought like dagger or like the sword of the Emperor.
Which,
Because
which again, like I get it because that's a very appropriate use for them. Is also saying like, yeah, they're the scalpel because they fucking are.
I mean, they're when you think about precise, you send the Adeptus Astartes. When you need something just fucking absolutely rolled over, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like, hey, you got, even if you have the entire chapter, which you will pretty much never fucking have in an engagement, and assuming it's Codex compliant, it's 1,000 Marines. Even if it's non-Codex compliant, usually it's never more than like 6K. And that's like the Black Templars, and that's the rare exception. Like, again, super fucking rare. You're never going to have anywhere near fielded in one battle. And even if you had like all the fucking Black Templars, or like 6,000 fucking Templars, in one battle, that's 6,000 guys. Like, again, you cannot just wage a continental war with just 6,000 guys, because even if you're superhuman badasses that'll auto kill the fucking enemy, you're not going to be able to physically cover all the ground.
No, and I mean, you think about the guard, and even in like some of the battles that I've seen in the Horus Heresy or in like certain books, like when you think about like guard battles are fucking like on a scale that you can't even imagine. You're talking about like millions of people.
Unless the Black Library authors fuck up the numbers again. Yeah, that's a big thing, in case you don't know, that the Black Library authors often underestimate like size counts. Because, like the saying, like anything over 1 million, nobody can really comprehend.
Right.
Like, it's just a number after you reach 1 mil. Where it's kind of like, oh, here's this entire fucking world, and the entire guard sent 750,000 troops to go conquer the fucking planet. And it's like, and you look back at like all the wars in human history, and it's like, nah.
No, they didn't.
No, there was like a single battle in Europe like a little bit over 100 years ago that had more than 750,000 people in it. Nah. And you're facing the entire planet in rebellion. Like, it's not gonna fucking work. So again, like I like to say, like, take the numbers with a grain of salt. But yeah, like, at least ideally how they are portrayed and how they operate, we're talking like you could have millions or even fucking billions in some situations of the fucking infantry, hundreds of thousands of fucking tanks, shit like that. And again, it depends on the size. Maybe a planet does only need 750, maybe it needs even less. Maybe it needs 10 times more. It really just depends upon the situation, and it's always going to be different. Going back to the little, it's like a sandwich, you got to build it however you like for whatever situation you need. So that's one of the cool things about them. And that's why like guards always going to be the ultimate badasses, because, hey, you know what? killing a fucking Chaos Space Marine as a loyalist, Astartes, that's pretty good. That's pretty fucking good. Not gonna lie, that dude has like 10,000 years of experience on you, more than likely. But that being said, if you're just a fucking guard regiment, like bro, you just killed a 10,000 year super soldier. That's really fucking impressive.
Yeah, that's like something you can brag home about.
Yeah, that's something where it's like absolutely insane. Now, some other facts, real quick, that I also want to get into. At least according to the Caiaphas Cain novel, okay, the guard is roughly divided into like 90% males and 10% females.
Oh God, here we go.
Usually, yeah. This is actually kind of interesting how they did this. That's according to Caiaphas Cain. If there's been a newer stat that I don't know about, somebody can leave that in comments. But that being said, that's usually how it operates. And normally, under normal circumstance, and we're about to get into exceptions and stuff like that in a second, they will be in separate regiments. So you'll have a female only infantry regiment. You'll have male only tank regiments, and there we go. But sorry, I did cut out for a second. But the reason for that is because if you're in the middle of fighting a fucking battle, you don't want your soldiers pregnant. That is a very simple concept. I feel like that's a pretty self-explanatory. You don't want somebody fucking 6 months into pregnancy being like, yeah. And usually on top of that, if you could be like, oh, well, they could just go around and just have abortions or contraceptives and this and that. Yeah, but there's going to be the fucking time whenever, like, they don't want the baby. It just causes more issues, right? So therefore, that's why they usually kept them separated. Now, sometimes there would be a case to where there would be combined or mixed regiments. Usually somewhat more rare. Happens in the Caiaphas Cain books. But that being said, it does happen. And it can happen. Now,
Yeah, I've heard. I think I've heard a couple of things about this.
now, if you want to say like, well, wait a second. In all the animations I've seen by GW with the Cadians, it's always a mixed regiment. Why is this? Well, two reasons. First of all, they love going around and showing like women in combat roles and the men in combat roles, and they just want to have like the, quote, diversity checklist in the fucking medium, whatever the fuck. But the reason, and I will say this is just me kind of looking at the situation and kind
Put
of
a chick in her and make her
You're
gay.
But this is just me kind of extrapolating from what we know of. But also, reminder, Cadia was the top cream de la cream, basically, of the Imperium, right? At least, like, in terms of the amount they produce, stuff like that. After the world blew up, they don't have a home world, right? So, if you don't have a home world...
R.I.P. Cadia.
Yeah, R.I.P. Cadia. So, that being said, if you don't have a home world, and you are now suddenly very limited in the amount of people you have, but you want more Cadians because they're great fucking fighters. You know what you are going to encourage?
What?
People getting pregnant. That's what you're going to fucking encourage. So why are there mixed regiments? Because essentially the Cadian regiments are like, that's their home away from home. I mean, the Cadians are basically nomads at this point, quite frankly. So, like, why is it mixed? Because all the Cadian regiments need everybody fucking fighting after Cadia. And also on top of that, if I had to guess, they want some of that going on. Because they want more fucking Cadians to make more fucking Cadian regiments and to replenish losses from their own fights. So that's kind of how we're seeing it.
So almost like a genetics kind of project.
I mean, it kind of is. I mean,
if the Cadians breed, we can make more Cadians.
I mean, unironically, yeah. That's essentially how it goes.
Even a half Cadian's a Cadian.
Even a half Cadian. But yeah, so I mean, this is the guard. There's a few obviously main different types of guards. We talked about the Cadians. You have the Catachan, which are basically on a jungle death world. Talarn Desert Raiders.
Krieg.
Everybody knows fucking Krieg.
Get the shovels.
Yeah, the Mordian Iron Guard. You got the Harakoni Warhawks. You got the Acid Dogs. I mean, you got fucking everybody.
They've got you've got the Valhallans, the Vestroyan Firstborn. You've got, oh my God, the Lucifer Blacks.
Yep, can't forget Lucifer Blacks.
Can't forget Lucifer Blacks. Yep. The fucking, what are they called? The fucking, the Janissaries.
Yeah, the Maccabean Janissaries, yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
They're cool as fuck. Now, the reason for this, by the way, in case you want to know, is if we look at Space Marines and we're like, man, it's really customizable. They want you to make your own custom chapter, all this cool stuff. they don't advertise this as much anymore with the guard.
Fuck
But-
you get
But
Cadians.
in the beginning of 40K, there was a very big push about making your own guard regiment because, reminder, with the amount of stuff in the Imperium, like feudal worlds, hive worlds, agri worlds, you can make any type of fucking guard regiment you goddamn wanted. So if you want to take a Warhammer fantasy model and you just want to strap a fucking gun to it, you got a guardsman. Have fun.
And make them like from an old feudal world.
Exactly. So guard regiment customization is very deeply entrenched. I guess we say in the guard. Because again, like if you're like, oh, I want to have my guard look like fucking medieval knights or fucking samurai or who knows what, or pirates even. Who fucking knows? Yeah, you could fucking do it. Because again, I mean, jokingly, they use basically the fucking sci-fi Nesium, where it's like, oh, here's the Mordian Iron Guard, and they wear the super dapper dress uniform, but also its battle plates. You know, I mean, you could just say, yeah, this is this little piece of lore here, and that makes it viable in combat, and here's how they operate and stuff like that. I mean, it's a very intrinsic to the guard. Now, granted, like we said before, the reason why I said like Cadian is the staple is because they were the best, but also the way they waged kind of combat and also like how effective they were made that the majority of the worlds in the Imperium modeled their own guard regiments after Cadia.
Don't lie, it was because they had the generic fucking Starship Trooper armor.
Oh no, it was 100%. That's why, because they can't get that strong of a trademark on fucking 80s action hero of the Catachan Jungle Fighters.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I didn't do fucking shit.
But yeah, I mean that's like the actual like real world reasons, because like that's the fully known, like no other direct inspiration like from World War One type shit. That's the sci-fi, faction is Cadia.
Yeah, it's the sci-fi human army.
Yes, that's the one like they push the most, but it does seem like it could be changing a little bit.
Yeah, it does seem like they're going more at least more towards like the main factions like Krieg, Cadia, and Catachan.
Yeah, but even like Catachan's had more models removed. They haven't had any like new models, if I'm not mistaken, because they've actually removed models whenever the new codex came out.
They got a new Sly Marbo.
That was like years ago, and they lost what was it, like Iron Hand Strachan, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, like they've lost characters.
We don't talk about that.
But that being said, like yeah, so as of right now, modern 40K, it's very much it's still Cadia, but Krieg is starting to kind of like slip into the limelight as like their full-fledged army, because gas masks and trench coats are fucking back in, baby.
Yeah,
We're going to the trenches.
I'd like to see one of like some of like the lesser known, at least like as an upgrade sprue, like Vestroya or the Praetorians.
It would be cool, but they're not going to do it.
I know.
So
but
your customization comes in either Cadia or Krieg. And that's fucking
you can have any guard regiment you want as long as it's Cadia or Krieg.
Here's also one of the big things that kind of confuses me. Now, as of recent, we've got the announcement for the next lore advancement / crusade book for 40K 10th edition, and we're going back to Armageddon. Armageddon is home to a very famous guard regiment called the Armageddon Steel Legion. Like, it was one of the most popular in relatively recent years, right? Like, it was like easily top 3 for most people.
And the big piss off to all the lore fucking guys is the fact that fucking Armageddon Steel Legion hasn't been fucking talked about
at all. Yeah, you got Krieg regiments fight with the new models, coincidentally, fighting on Armageddon, but you don't have the fucking Steel Legion.
Yeah,
they're not granted, like in the book maybe they're mentioned, but like in the actual announcement they're like, oh, it's the Krieg and Space Wolves.
No, it was is it Krieg?
Yeah, no, they said Krieg, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's Krieg, Space Wolves, and Grey Knights.
Yep.
I'm excited. To
yeah,
see
no,
that.
I know for you.
I'm excited to see that.
For
fucking.
Yeah, Corn chose a terrible time to go out for milk. That's all I'm saying with the Grey Knights and World Eaters.
It's time for round 2, bitches.
Oh no. How are you not a Space Wolf again with your helmet? It's still an orc. This is confusing.
I don't know, because orcs will always have a special place in my heart.
Fair enough. I respect it.
I'll always be an orc at heart, even if I am a space wolf.
Yeah, I respect it. But yeah, long story short, The Guard is all about going on ahead, and it is the basic human in whatever capacity serving the Imperium and doing well doing it. That was a terrible way of fucking saying that.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's the Imperium's utility knife.
Don't dress it up. It's the Guard, son.
So, I mean, really the only things I have left is I have the regimental breakdown of how regiments are broken down, and then I have ranks.
I mean, yeah, if you want to go over that real quick, there's obviously a lot more to get into with Guard. We just want to put out this episode to kind of be like an initial primer for everything else. So if there's anybody entirely new and they're like, oh, what's a commissar? What's a scion? What's like, you guys know what we're talking about. And I feel like most people already do, but this was a nice little like get your toes wet.
Yeah, this is and it's a nice little palate cleanser from fucking Space Marines.
Very true, yeah.
Even though we keep talking about Space Marines.
Yeah, like
All right, so the breakdown from
Space Marines.
We'll go from the top. So each regiment is broken down into companies. Usually, so it's broken down into companies. The companies are led by a company commander and a command squad. Then each company is broken down usually into. I saw there's a lore book that says 5 platoons each, but there's also whenever I was doing research, it said anywhere between like 3 to 6 platoons. So I'll go with 3 to 6 platoons. Each of those platoons is led by a commander and his command squad. Then you break down those platoons, and those platoons break down into infantry squads, each led by a squad leader. And then each of the squads may then include up to 3 special weapon squads, 5 heavy weapon squads, and 1 conscript squad, along with support from other authorities such as the Ecclesiarchy, the Mechanicum, Psychana, assassins if they want to bring assassins, shit like that.
But you ain't gonna know the assassins are there.
Yeah, you'll never see them.
You'll never know. I'm not hearing anything on my mic.
I know, sorry.
Oh,
I had you
okay.
turned down because I was echoing super bad when I was the only one
you're good.
talking.
Yeah, I noticed.
I've noticed I had to like play around.
There's been a few times the echo was pretty fucking bad.
Yeah, I have to like play around with the audio levels
Okay, but anyways.
as we go. So, but anywho, so the last thing I have is rank. We'll start at the top of the food chain for the Guard. At the very top, you have the Lord Commander Militant. This is the Supreme Commander of the entire Astra Militarum. He's also going to be a High Lord of Terra. This is your big guy.
The top motherfucker.
The top motherfucker. Below that, you have your War Master. However, nowadays we prefer to use the word Lord Solar now.
Those are his pronouns. You will respect him.
His pronouns are now Lord Solar. This is a special rank bestowed upon a leader of an Imperial Crusade. They don't like to use...
War Master.
Yeah, they don't like to use War Master
I
anymore.
wonder why. Every once in a while, it'll pop back up, but for the most part, it's not in use anymore.
No, now they have Lord Solar, which is Leontis now, ain't it?
It is, yeah.
He just got a book too.
Ah, I need to read it. That'd be kind of cool.
Then below the War Master, you have the Lord Commander. This is the Supreme Commander of one of the 5 segmentae. We should probably go. Should we go into the different segmentae?
No, I wouldn't go that far now.
Okay. Then below that, you have the Lord General Militant. This is the military commander of one of the designated theaters or operations. So this is going to be within the segmentae. This is going to be the guy that's taking his orders from the Lord General, I think it was, or no, the Lord Commander, and then he's going to be executing everything from that point. Below that, you have the Lord General. This is the general officer that commands the whole army group and uses. After this point, you kind of branch off and you have different names for different titles depending on where you're from. So like I want to say for like Krieg, this is like your high marshal or your grand marshal or whatever. For Cadia, this is like your Castellans. Below that, you have a general. This is the officer who leads multiple regiments. Below that, you have a colonel. This is the officer who commands a single regiment. I would assume they would send this off depending on like the scale of the military force needed. Is depending on who's going to be leading the charge. Below that, you have a major, who's usually the executive officer of a regiment, or he's the commander of a regimental subformation. The captain is in charge of a company. The lieutenant is in charge of a platoon. The sergeant is in charge of a squad. The corporal is in charge of a squad in the absence of the sergeant. And then below that, you have the old guardsmen.
And below the guardsmen,
conscripts.
Yeah, the conscripts. Or the white shields. But they don't exist anymore, so we ain't going to talk about them.
But yeah, so that's everything I have on the guard.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty good, decent summary. I think we can kind of go from there. Hope this guy give you guys like a little bit of an overview of what the guard is. We'll definitely be doing more in-depth stuff as we're going into each guard regiment. But I feel like a basic primer was needed just to guarantee everybody kind of knew what was going on.
So before we go, who's your favorite guard regiment?
Okay, so I have them as models, or at least I painted up my guard this way. Harakoni Warhawks.
Okay.
Easy.
I haven't read too much on them.
Oh, neither have I. I just think they're cool. I've seen art. That's it. You think I've read anything on them?
That's okay. I haven't read anything on mine either because, like I said, mine is like I have a special place for Krieg. Like Krieg is probably my favorite on the tabletop. But as far as like looks go, if I could find them and I could like 3D print them and get them set up and everything, it would either be Vestroya Firstborn or the Praetorians.
Good choice.
Just because I like the fucking I like the weird hunting hats that make them look like Van Pelt from fucking Jumanji.
Yeah, there we go. Yes.
But yeah, so we will see you guys next time. I think the next episode we're gonna do is I was thinking about doing Cadia, but Cadia I feel like is the poster boys, and fuck that, we're gonna do things different. So I think we're gonna do Krieg first.
You know what? I fuck with that.
Krieg, just because they came out with the new models already, and they haven't gotten as much love as they deserve. So fuck GW. I'm gonna do things different.
Yeah, fuck you, GW.
Krieg is gonna be our first guard regiment that we do.
Hell yeah.
So until then, fuck
it, we ball.